Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Zachary Dickinson here. It is Saturday, the end of the week. The week is now over, so it is the weekend. So that means it is book day. Book review, book content, whatever you want to call it. Whatever. So today is me going over the 9 books by C.S. Lewis I have read. None of them are Narnia. I just haven't read that. Not that I don't want to or haven't tried. I just haven't gotten to that. So, I have 9 different C.S. Lewis books that I will be looking over that I have read within about the past 4 or so years. I started reading C.S. Lewis long before I ever knew of Lee Strobel or thought about it. So, this is pretty much the first Christian author I ever heard of. Not read, because I'm not quite 100% sure about that. So, let's get on into it. There are 9 books, so let's start. So, these 9 books are not in any particular order at all. Actually, I'm going to be starting with one of the books that is kind of somewhat in the middle of when I read that, and that is C.S. Lewis's Miracles. This was the hardest C.S. Lewis book to read, just because it's very dense philosophically and theologically, and it was the most dense Christian book that I had read up to that point. This was about 3 or so years ago, which doesn't feel like it's been really that long, but this is just a C.S. Lewis book on miracles, and he does a very deep dive on it. And discussing of how Christians should not only accept, but rejoice in miracles. Not much really to say, but it is a C.S. Lewis book, and so it is great, and it's on miracles. Alright, we have the C.S. Lewis book that I read at the youngest age while I was going to my Catholic high school, middle school. I'm pretty sure I read it in middle school at about 7th or 8th grade. This is the Screwtape Letters. And this is about a devil and his nephew writing back and forth to each other. And so this is a very, very interesting book, where we do a dive on a satire on hell, and it's stuff in heaven and questions and answers and stuff like that. It's a very interesting read. One of the easier to digest C.S. Lewis books because of the setting that it was put into. So next up we have C.S. Lewis's The 4 Loves. And so they are affection, friendship, eros, and charity. And so these are the 4 different types of love, with the most rare and insightful being eros, which is the deepest form of love. You obviously have friendship. You obviously have charity, which are very prominent and very well known. You have affection, which is also pretty well known. Eros isn't talked about as much, and so each of these are given about a chapter or so, and that's the whole book. Goes introduction, then the likings and loves for the subhuman, and then what are the 4 different loves. Alright, so now we have Chiefly on Prayer, Letters to Malcolm. This is very similar to the Screwtape Letters. However, it's not really between 2 devils or demons. It's just between 2 people writing letters back and forth to each other, talking about how prayer is, and on the role of prayer in our lives, and the ways in which we might better imagine our relationship with God through prayer. This is a very, very insightful book. It is also said to be C.S. Lewis's final book before his death as well. And so it is Letters to Malcolm, and it is a book on prayer and incorporating prayer more deeply in our lives. Alright, so now we have Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, which is well regarded as one of his best works, but I find it to be the most difficult to read because of the way that it was originally meant to be digested. This is a book that was originally meant and was done as a podcast or a radio station, and it's a collection of sermons or talks that he had on this podcast or radio station throughout like 50, 51, 52, and like 53. And so they were collected into this book, so they're not as cohesive as a regular book. But it's really just C.S. Lewis talking about morality, and like different behaviors and doctrine and stuff behind that. So it's a little bit harder of a read. If you're going to read this or reread this, you should read something else by C.S. Lewis to get a handle on him, and then get back into this book, because this book is just a little bit harder to read than anything else. Still great, but because it's morality and like ethics based, it's a bit harder because there's not too many books on that. All right, so we are halfway through, and so the next book is C.S. Lewis, Compelling Reasons. These are essays on ethics and theology. They are various different essays that were written between 1940 and 1962, exploring everything from the decline of religion to history, equality, war, education, and living in the age that C.S. Lewis was living in. It's a lot of his best wisdom on ethics and theology. So just like Mere Christianity, it's a collection of writings or things that he did over the course of a period of time. However, this wasn't in like a talking or radio aspect, so it's a little bit easier, and it is still on like kind of ethics, which is similar to Mere Christianity, but it's also on theology, and so that's a little bit easier because morality and ethics is a lot deeper and sometimes harder to understand. All right, so next up is his shortest book that I have. It is A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. It is very few in chapters. However, if you're dealing with any type of mental health issues that deal with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts or tendencies, do not read this book until you're better. It is literally, I'm pretty sure it's literally about C.S. Lewis grieving over his wife's tragic death. And it's literally C.S. Lewis talking about grief and the aftermath of losing his wife. And so if you're dealing with anything, don't read this. If you're okay, read this, but be advised, it's dark and it's not a normal C.S. Lewis book at all. Grief Observed. So this next book, Surprised by Joy by C.S. Lewis, it is very much, it's very similar to Lee Strobel, The Case for Faith, which is his faith journey, and this is pretty much just about the same thing, just a little bit more deeper into C.S. Lewis's early life and deeper into different aspects than Lee Strobel did in certain aspects as well. Surprised by Joy is the shaping and how C.S. Lewis pretty much came to be as he grew up and became an adult. It is a very good book. It's probably one of his longer books. And it's pretty much his entire spiritual journey up until the point that he wrote this book. It's very good. I'm actually wanting to reread this later this year. All right, so the final book of the 9 that I have read by C.S. Lewis, we have C.S. Lewis, The Problem of Pain. So this is very similar to the book I just talked about, A Grief Observed. However, this is a book chiefly on why must we suffer, answering the questions that a lot of us have of why do we suffer? Why do good people suffer as much as they do? And so this answers pretty much that big question. Yeah. And it also answers why do animals that we love and cherish suffer as much as they do? Or do either of us deserve the pain? Can it be improved? Can our livelihood be improved by the pain that we endure? Yeah, so C.S. Lewis looks to answer these questions with some of his answer these questions through his normal writing patterns. And so that is the final book, The Problem of Pain. All right, so that is all 9 books of C.S. Lewis that I have read. in this different stack now. So this was a bit faster paced of a book. I am in somewhat of a rush, but also this is probably the best way to do this thing, as to not put too much thought into it, and I'm not giving away too many spoilers like I would do in some of the other book content videos I have done, like deeper dives into them. If you want to see deeper dives into any of these books, let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed it and help it get it out there. Subscribe for future videos. On Monday, I'll be doing a video on all the DC Extended Universe films ranked. You might already know a lot of how the ordering may work if you watched the previous video on why I think the DC Extended Universe failed. On Wednesday, we will then on Tuesday, we'll have our second compilation video. This past Tuesday, we had the MCU Infinity Saga Phase 3 Parts 1 and 2 combining together, and now I'm going to combine all 4 of the Phases 1, 2, and 3 videos from the Infinity Saga into one compact video, and making a new intro and a new outro. That'll come out Tuesday, and then we'll have my top 5 shonen anime. It probably won't be too much surprises in it at all. And then, what should have come out yesterday, but time and all that happened, is a video doing a deeper dive through a couple different ways to explain why the Lincoln Lawyer has been adapted the way it's been adapted so far through the first 4 seasons. And then next Saturday, since I've done a lot of Star Wars videos up to this point, I feel like it's finally time, since I'm not currently reading any Star Wars, so there won't be too much to add to this, but it'll be a decently long video, but also a rapid-fire video like this one of every single Star Wars video I have read up to this point. So, I hope you like that, and I hope you'll see all the videos next week. So, see you Monday. Goodbye.